All right, all right. Welcome, guys, to another episode of Lawyer Up, Celeb Legal Talk. Let me see. What am I doing here? I'm trying to get. Yeah. All right, guys. All right. So, welcome to another episode of Lawyer Up, Celeb Legal Talk. And where are we, guys? Where are we? Um, it's Diddy again. What can I say? Again, I mean, honestly, I'm a little tired of Diddy, to be quite honest with you. I'm tired of reading all of the allegations and accusations surrounding Diddy. That's how bad this is. I mean, I feel like it's just nonstop between he had a little bit of a break with the Drake and Kendrick saga, but now we're back at it with Diddy. And honestly, I feel like this is worse, or is this is equally bad as when the first allegations made by Cassie initially dropped. We're right back there again with that video, and now the seventh lawsuit against Diddy. I want to go over that today because this is nonstop. This is nonstop. And, I'm kind of wondering, okay, so what do the feds have on him? I've seen some different theories out there. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I've heard arrest is imminent. It's happening any day now. TMZ, I was looking at the podcast from Don Lemon yesterday, and one of the TMZ hosts was saying there is just a matter of time, a matter of trying to get the charges. Like, what charges are they actually going to bring up on him? So there's that. But then I've heard, who leaked this video of Cassie, this beating between Diddy and Cassie? Who leaked that? And why? And there's just been some overwhelming evidence that it looks or appears like the feds leaked it. Okay, so there was that. And I've heard, okay, so is this another attempt to taint the jury pool, which makes you wonder how, I mean, regardless of whether someone is being accused of some heinous, devious, evil, monstrous crimes, they still deserve a fair trial. And it does make you wonder, how is Puffy going to get a fair trial? So what was the point of leaking this video? If the feds leaked it, if that is definitely the case, are they trying to taint the jury pool? Like the public opinion, you know what I mean? So there's that. And then I've heard, okay, feds don't typically leak footage, although it does look like they did. But I've heard, hey, feds don't typically leak, footage or evidence. And if they did, are they doing that because they don't really have anything on him? So that's the other piece. I've heard that. Like, maybe there's just not that much on him. And they're combing through things. They found that, they've leaked it. So I mean, those are different theories. They're both being thrown. People throwing out all kind of wild theories on what's happening with Diddy. I even heard someone say, after Diddy issued this fake ass apology, he was seen walking around Star Island with his all white on, with the two gentlemen that were with him, and they all had their all white. People were like, is this a ritual? And hey, they are in all white. That is like one of the things they say people do. So I was like, is Diddy doing rituals because he's trying to like make sure like end up in jail? Is he doing rituals? You never know. I mean, he's got this huge tattoo on his back, and it looks like it's some sort of Western African, I think the Haitian mother or whatever, voodoo mother. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. I'm on a tangent here, but I'm just saying there's a lot of theories out there. The streets are talking, things are going wild. You got all the hip hop aficionados speaking out on him now. They're all coming out against him. You've had Charlemagne. I even heard. I was surprised to hear Charlemagne. He went in. Joe Budden went in. So when you start to see his peers that are well respected sort of turn, then things don't look so good, So as of, I guess it was day before yesterday or either yesterday, there was another case, complaint filed on Diddy. Another one. Can you believe this? This is the seventh complaint filed on Diddy since since Cassie's initial filing. And this one is as equally disturbing as all the other ones. So I want to go over that with you guys. We're going to walk through this complaint. Let me bring it up. All right, so I was trying to expand my screen so you guys could see a little better, so it's a little bit clearer. I have heard that, hey, it's kind of hard to see when you're reading the cases. It's like too far back. We need to zoom in a little bit more. So I'm trying to do that for you guys so you guys can kind of go through this with me. But let's take a look at this and see what this is. So the plaintiff, her name is Crystal McKinny, okay? She's suing. This is a case that was filed in the United States District Court, the Southern District of New York, and the plaintiff's name is Crystal McKinny. Now, she's suing Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy. She's suing Bad Boy Entertainment. She's suing Bad Boy Records. She's suing Bad Boy Entertainment Holdings. So everything Bad Boy is getting sued here. Sean John Clothing. And again, Universal Music Entertainment Group. I'm sure they're tired of being dragged into these lawsuits with Diddy. They're constantly, I mean, their attorneys got to be working overtime just on the Diddy lawsuits alone, let alone anything else they got going on over there. Okay, so it states here that the plaintiff is demanding a trial by jury, which means she does not want a bench trial from with the court, with the judge. She wants a trial by jury. I don't know what Diddy's legal strategy is at this point. I don't know why he didn't settle with Cassie when she initially made him aware that, she's seeking a demand recovery for damages. Why he didn't settle with her, it doesn't make any sense to me. And for all of this to come out as a result, I mean, it would have been far easier to settle with her. He knew he had all this stuff in his background. He lied or whatever. So anyway, let's move on down. It says the plaintiff, Crystal McKinny, by and through her attorneys, Phillips and Associates, hereby alleges and avers of the defendants, Sean Combs, and they go through all of his different companies and his names, P. Diddy, Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Records, Bad Boy Entertainment Holdings, collectively Bad Boy Entertainment LLC and Bad Boy Holdings. And they're stating that they're referred to as defendant Bad Boy Records. Okay, so that's how they're going to be referring to him in this complaint. It says Sean John Clothing and Universal Music Group. Okay. Collectively referred to as defendants, alleges upon information and belief as to all other matters as follows. All right, let's see the nature of the action. It says the plaintiff brings suit against defendants pursuant to the New York City NYC Gender Motivated Violence Act. And this is sections 901 to redress the substantial and lifetime injuries she has suffered as a result of being drugged and intimately assaulted by Sean Combs, okay? Better known as P. Diddy. Hold on a second, guys. Okay, now jurisdiction. Says this court has jurisdiction over this action. It's pursuant to 28 USC section 1332. Insofar as there is complete diversity between the parties and the amount in controversy exceeds $75,000. Okay, so she must not live in California. She's that means that the two parties live in different states. Okay, so the plaintiff lives in the state of Georgia. Combs is in California. We'll move on down. Bad Boy Holdings is headquartered in New York. Bad Boy Entertainment LLC, also New York. Sean John Clothing, New York. Universal Music Groups, California. And it says the venue is proper in the Southern District of New York because a substantial part of the events giving rise to the claim, including but not limited to defendants Combs' assault of plaintiff, occurred in New York. Okay, so the venue is proper. they're going down to the procedural requirements. This is the New York City's NYC Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act. Says the NYC Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act created a look back window. You guys have heard about this. Everybody knows about this act now. Created a look back window on March 1st of 2023. This was last year, which runs for 2 years for survivors of gender motivated violence. And it allows them to sue their abusers regardless of when the abuse occurred. So you can sue your abuser anytime. You just got to be able to prove in court that the event occurred. Says the New York City NYC Gender Motivated Violence Act revives any claims against the party who commits, directs, enables, participates in, or conspires in the commission of a crime of violence motivated by gender, has a cause of action against such party in any court of competent jurisdiction. And then they give the administrative code for New York. Give me a second, guys. I'm having some kombucha here. Says the appellate division has held that intimate assault is an act of gender motivated violence under the law, as coerced intimate activity is dehumanizing and fear inducing. Malice or ill will based on gender is apparent from the alleged commission of the act itself. Animus inheres, which consent is absent, and they give a case briefing here, Brees versus Haggis. Says the above described conduct of defendant Combs, including but not limited to defendant Combs' intimate assault of plaintiff in New York City, constitutes a crime of violence and a crime of violence motivated by gender against plaintiff as defined by the NYC Gender Motivated Violence Act. Okay, so then we take a look at the parties here. So you have P. Diddy. We all know him. Let me just kind of skim through this. P. Diddy, he's Grammy awarded musician, rapper, producer. We know that. Founded defendant Bad Boy Records. That's true. P. Diddy was the first male rapper to get a start on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. I did not know that. All right, P. Diddy. That was in 2008. 2022, Forbes estimated that P. Diddy is one of the wealthiest hip hop artists in America, and that his net worth is over $1 billion. I kind of question whether or not that is actually accurate. One of the main reasons I question that is that the amount that these people have been requesting to settle was low money, basically nothing. I mean, this was like pennies. It should have been pennies to a billionaire. I mean, what is $25,000, $50,000? I think that's what Rod was asking, little Rod. I think it was like either 25 or 50. I can't remember which one, but that's nothing. Like, I mean, literally that's nothing. So for someone who's worth over $1 billion, I mean, where are your liquid assets here? So anyway, that one, I mean, they put it in here. I know Forbes said it, but I question the validity of it. Anyway, number 18, upon information and belief, P. Diddy has a long history of committing physical and intimate violence against women. And this is all based on accusations, alleged acts, because we have none of this has been proven in a court of law. But we have seen a video. And he did admit that was him in the video. So, okay, let's keep going. So, against women and men, as documented in publicly available lawsuits and extensive media coverage. There you have it. And he did. And that's the other thing too. From a legal perspective, why did he make that video? It's I don't know. The fact that he made that video, he'd done better just saying nothing. First of all, it was insincere. That's that. But if just legally, as you're building your case, your defense, he shouldn't have done that. Anyway, number 19, let's move on. On November 16th, 2023, Cassie, an artist signed onto Bad Boy Records, filed a suit in the United States District Court, Southern District of New York, alleging that Combs provided her with copious amounts of substances, drugs, before intimately assaulting her. November 23rd, 7 days later, a week later after Cassie's lawsuit, Joy Dickerson Neal filed a suit. And in that suit, it was in the Supreme Court of New York County, alleging that Combs again drugged her and intimately assaulted her and filmed a revenge tape of the assault. And then you have on November 23rd, which was the same day, Liza Gardner filed suit in the Supreme Court of New York, alleging that Combs and Aaron Hall intimately assaulted her when she was a minor. Then you got a couple of weeks later, December 6th, you got a Jane Doe here who filed a suit in the United States District Court of Southern District of New York, alleging that when she was a minor, she was raped by Combs, Harvey Pierre, and a third unnamed assailant. And then on February 26th, which was this year, you have the huge Rodney Jones complaint that was filed, and that was also filed in the same district court of Southern District of New York, alleging that Combs intimately assaulted him and also provided laced alcoholic beverages to minors. So there is a lot of lawsuits pending regarding Diddy. All right, guys, hold on a second. Give me a second here. All right, let's continue. I have to take a call for work. All right, so they go on to list the defendants. There's Bad Boy Records. They talk about Bad Boy selling over 500 million records. They even throw in Mary J. Blige and Notorious B.I.G. and Usher. We talk about Universal Music Group, and I guess they signed with Combs, Sean back in February 6th of 2003. And they've continued to distribute his records and his catalog from 2003 to 2005 and then 2009 to present. So he's jumped around a little bit. And then they talk about Sean John clothing, which I didn't even know was still an item. But I guess they had retail sales over 450 million, which is a bit surprising. I didn't realize Sean John was like a thing. I know Macy's no longer sells Sean John, so I figured that was done. All right. So now in terms of the allegations here that Crystal is alleging, it says the plaintiff begins her modeling career. So let's see what they say. So she's 17. At the age of 17, the plaintiff, she won MTV's inaugural model mission on December 5th of 98. This was a televised modeling competition akin to Miss America. So it was that sort of style. And she was awarded a modeling contract with IMG. It says shortly thereafter, the plaintiff, her career took off. She modeled for Tommy Hilfiger jeans campaign. She was also featured in Macy's catalogs, Elle, Cosmopolitan, Mademoiselle magazine. So she got some good coverage after that MTV model mission. Says the plaintiff also made appearances in television and film programs such as MTV's Total Request Live, TRL. I don't know if you guys remember that, or am I dating myself just a little bit? But TRL was a big thing at one time. Fashionably Loud, True Life, and a movie with Joan Rivers. So she's got, she did a little work. And says, furthermore, the plaintiff had international modeling gigs in Germany as well as Australia. All right. So fashion designer invites plaintiff, Crystal, to Men's Fashion Week to meet Combs. So it says in 2003, when the plaintiff was 22 years old, a fashion designer, and they're not naming him, they're calling him the designer, invited the plaintiff to attend a Men's Fashion Week event that was held at Cipriani downtown. This was located at 376 West Broadway, New York. So at the time, the plaintiff was engaged in modeling gigs in Miami, Florida, and she flew to New York for this event. So the designer told the plaintiff that he would be introducing her to Combs, which would advance her modeling career. Says the designer began to direct the plaintiff's appearance as he sought to ensure Combs found her attractive. So for instance, the designer instructed the plaintiff to go to Elizabeth Arden, which is, I don't know if you guys remember Elizabeth Arden makeup line, to get a root touch up to ensure it was platinum blonde. Okay, so he sent her there to get her hair done, make sure your roots are done, make sure it's platinum blonde. Okay, so that's that. Give me a second, guys. Okay. The designer also scheduled a stylist to put in hair extensions for her, for the plaintiff. The designer then handpicked a black leather coat with a fur hood, translucent chiffon beige V-cut shirts, a fur-lined handbag, jewel encrusted jeans for the plaintiff to wear to the event. He's basically styling her, okay? It says due to the traumatic events to occur later, the plaintiff saved the unwashed clothing from that night in her closet where they remain in a plastic wrap. That is unbelievable to me. I mean, I think about myself and I just, I do a spring cleaning, annual cleaning, quarterly cleaning. When I need to get rid of energy, I purge. But to hold something, this incident that she's alleging happened in 2003, and this is 2024. She's held this clothing in a plastic wrap for 21 years. So you got to think about the mind state of a person that would do that. I mean, it just lends to some sort of unhealed trauma for you to hold on to anything that long. So that must have been whatever happened must have been quite an event for her. So let's keep going. I mean, I don't know. Maybe some people do that. I heard Monica Lewinsky did that, and I was just like, oh, well, really? I don't know. I don't do things like that. So anyway, let's keep going. But for her to do this, it just lends to some sort of traumatic event. But as we go on, says Combs makes promises of, before I go on, that is not going to fare well for Diddy, that she still has these clothes from 21 years later in a plastic wrap. So if there's any sort of DNA in the underwear or anything like that, just that is going to be a nightmare for him. Why did you not settle with her? Like where are your attorneys in advising you to go over this? He's just I guess he just doesn't care anymore. He's just like, whatever. Anyway, let's move on down. So it says Combs makes promises of career advancement. All right. Soon thereafter, the plaintiff took a car to Cipriani downtown, where the designer was dining with Combs and other guests. The plaintiff felt little control over the events, as she was directed what to do and put on display for the others in attendance there for the evening. For instance, the plaintiff sat down on an empty seat next to the designer, but he insisted that she sit down directly across from Combs instead. Once seated, Combs made a very public display of coming on to the plaintiff in an intimate, suggestive manner, which continued throughout the dinner, according to her. This was aggressive flirting. Not even flirting, because she says this wasn't it. I'm not going to say what they said, but very suggestively coming on to her. So for others to hear, Combs bestow compliments on the plaintiff by stating, for example, that she was beautiful, that her eyes were gorgeous. Later, and at a more intimate volume, Combs told the plaintiff she was going to make it big one day as a model. And then Combs went on to tell the plaintiff that he had power in the industry and was going to help her advance her career. Combs provided the plaintiff with his phone number and a gesture of good faith in his promises to help her. And throughout their interactions, Combs was flirtatious. He's bordering on leering. That's what she's alleging. And as he leaned across the table towards her, okay? Combs also plied the plaintiff with alcohol throughout the dinner as he repeatedly refilled her glass with wine. And after the meal ended, Combs told the plaintiff that he wanted to get to know her better. Combs asked the plaintiff to call him a bit later. Plaintiff felt confused but hopeful that Combs would fulfill his promises to help her career. Okay, so that's her story. Now, as we go on down, plaintiff meets Combs at his studio where he uh, intoxicates her and intimately assaults her. And it says later that night, Combs requested plaintiff come see his studio located, and they give his address. This was down on 44th Street. The plaintiff felt reassured that she would be with others at the studio, rather rather alone in his personal residence. Okay, so when the plaintiff arrived, she found that Combs and several other men seated together. She found that they were passing around a bottle of Hennessy and joints, the brown liquor. After the plaintiff sat down, one of Combs' associates asked her, "Do you smoke weed?" To which she responded affirmatively. Combs' associate replied, "You never had weed like this before." And the plaintiff later came to understand that Combs had laced the joint with a narcotic or other intoxicating substance. So he's been doing this, well, allegedly, he's done this to other people. And it sounds like this is something, according to what she's put here in this complaint, this whole idea of intoxicating people, altering their senses without their consent is something that looks like it may have been going on for a very long time. Based on this complaint, this was back in 2003. So this has been going on for a while. So again, she's stating that he laced the joint with a narcotic or other intoxicating substance. Says that Combs passed her the joint and plaintiff took a hit, which felt very powerful. And although the plaintiff insisted that she had had enough after that, Combs pressured her to take more alcohol and the wacky tobacco by telling her that she was acting too uptight. So I guess he didn't like that. Says that she felt as if she was floating. All right. So she had been given something. She knew it wasn't the norm. She knew it wasn't the regular cannabis that she was used to. It says seeing the plaintiff was very intoxicated, Combs demanded that the plaintiff follow him and physically led the plaintiff to the bathroom. Okay. And then it says in the bathroom, give me a second, guys. Let me see what this is. Okay. It says in the bathroom, Combs forced himself on the plaintiff and began kissing her without her consent. So she didn't ask for this. This is something that he did on his own. She's basically saying that this was non-consensual. And then he shoved her head down to his crotch before commanding her to do more. And the plaintiff refused, but Combs pushed her head down into his phallus and forced her to perform on him. So as she was being assaulted, plaintiff felt panicked, physically sick. Afterwards, Combs led the plaintiff back into the studio, and upon standing and walking, she felt more and more woozy, and then she just lost consciousness, according to this complaint. She awakened in shock to find herself in a taxi cab heading back to the designer's apartment, which I almost want to ask, did the designer have something to do with this? And if so, why didn't she include the designer? Was it a setup? Because the designer was really trying to ensure that Diddy, according to this allegation, that Diddy would work with her. And, was this a thing that he did? I probably would have looked into that a little bit more. But anyway, let me scroll on down. Says, as her consciousness returned, the plaintiff realized that she had been assaulted by Combs. She felt humiliated and traumatized and without recourse. Going down to the next section where it says Combs' assault has caused plaintiff lifelong harm. Do you guys hear that? Lifelong. So she really hasn't recovered. It says following the assault, the plaintiff's modeling opportunities quickly began to dwindle and then evaporated entirely. It says upon information and belief, Combs had the plaintiff blackballed in the industry and utilized his significant influence to impede the plaintiff's career growth. But he had her blackballed. But I wonder why. Like what occurred? Because I mean, she clearly doesn't remember a whole lot. She woke up and she was in the cab, but he had a blackball. Since the plaintiff became severely depressed. I mean, oh, before I say that, that's what she's alleging. Plaintiff became severely depressed as she began to blame herself for the assault and for sabotaging her own career. The assault led the plaintiff into a tailspin of anxiety and depression. In or about 2004, the plaintiff attempted suicide and was hospitalized. That's bad. And everywhere the plaintiff looked, she was reminded of Combs' assault, as Combs was an inescapable presence in music, television, and film. In the ensuing years, plaintiff has also experienced alcohol and drug addiction. Okay, you guys hear my dog back there. 1 second. Let me see if I can get him quiet. It talks about her drug addiction and alcohol. And it says, as she attempted to cope with emotional trauma of being assaulted. So this is years later. She's still dealing with this emotional distress. So it says the plaintiff has also experienced intimacy issues as she struggles to maintain emotional and intimate relationships with men. Plaintiff, she was married from 2006 to 2010. However, marriage fell apart, and she says she had a mental breakdown that was precipitated by memories of this assault. Now, she goes on to say Combs' assault has altered the trajectory of her career, denying her a successful and lucrative career in the modeling and film industries. And to this day, the plaintiff experiences bouts of depression, anxiety, she has body image issues, feelings of worthlessness and intimacy because of Combs' assault. Now, I will say, I mean, they put this in here, but if you're still holding your garment from 21 years later, what does that say? What does that say? It says the plaintiff is a woman of faith, and when she saw news coverage of the lawsuit from Cassie and Miss Dickerson Neal and others, she knew she had a moral obligation to speak up. And so the plaintiff prayed to God before bringing the lawsuit, as she feared further violence and or retaliation from Diddy, but ultimately decided that she needed to speak her truth. And so she's seeking justice for herself and for any other Combs victims. Now, it says here, as a first cause of action, New York City Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Act gets the defendant. This is a lot of legal jargon that has nothing to do. It just really, let's see here. I wasn't going to read this, but I guess I can. But it basically says the plaintiff reiterates, realleges that every part of this allegation is truthful, and made in the above paragraphs of this complaint is as if more fully set forth herein at length. And then she goes on to say that they give something. It says that talks about the act, that it revives any claims against a party who commits, directs, enables, participates in, or conspires in the commission of a crime of violence motivated by gender, has caused an action against such party in any court of competent jurisdiction. And they give the code, the administrative code. They go on to say the above described conduct of Combs, including the intimate assaulting or abusing the plaintiff at a music studio located in Manhattan, constitutes a crime of violence against plaintiff and is a crime of violence motivated by gender, and that's defined by the code again. And I will say this, that studio that she's alleging where this event took place is also the studio where one of the other complaints by one of the women said took place. So lots of things have happened at that studio, sounds like it. Goes on to say defendant's crime of violence were motivated by plaintiff's gender as defined in the code, New York City Administrative Code, as defendant committed forcible intimate acts upon the plaintiff that would constitute felonies under state law, and as the conduct presents a serious risk of physical injury, whether or not those acts have resulted in criminal charges, prosecution, or conviction. Okay. They're going to talk about the appellate division. It's held that the intimate assault is an act of gender motivated violence under the law as coerced intimate activity is dehumanizing and fear-inducing. And they go on to talk about, again, malice or ill will that's based on gender is apparent from the alleged commission of the act itself. They go on to do some case law here. And let's see. And they talk about the plaintiff. She's older than 18. She alleges misdemeanor or felony penal law violations, included but not limited to the intimate misconduct. And they talk about the sections, New York Penal L, criminal intimate act in the first degree, criminal intimate act in the third degree, forcible touching, intimate abuse in the first degree, and intimate abuse in the second degree. Goes on to say the defendant Combs coerced the plaintiff to engage in intimate contact and intercourse despite the fact that he was rendered incapable of consenting due to intoxication, because she states that she had been drugged. Defendant, and she had been drinking alcohol and was probably clearly not at herself. Says the defendant Combs gave plaintiff several drinks throughout the night. He laced the blunts. Thus, he knew or should have known the plaintiff was incapable of consenting to any sort of intimate contact. The defendant's actions presented a serious risk of physical injury to the plaintiff's person, regardless of whether or not those acts resulted in criminal charges, prosecution, or conviction. As a direct or proximate result of the aforementioned crime of violence and gender-motivated violence, the plaintiff has sustained and will continue to sustain monetary damages, physical injury, pain and suffering, and serious psychological and emotional distress, entitling him to an award of compensatory and punitive damages, injunctive and declaratory relief, attorney fees and costs, and other remedies of this court that the court may deem appropriate damages. And that's set forth by Section 10, 1104. They go on to say that furthermore, defendants, the Bad Boy Records, Sean John and Universal Music Group, enabled defendant Combs' commission of the crimes, of violence motivated by gender, and thus are liable. So they're just supporting why these defendants are liable under this New York City Victims of Gender Motivated Protection Act. And then it goes on to say that the defendants, Bad Boy Records, Sean John, and Universal Music Group, enabled or participated in the intimate abuse of the plaintiff because the defendants failed to, among other things, protect the plaintiff from a known danger. Have sufficient policies and procedures in place to prevent SA, properly implement policies and procedures to prevent SA, take reasonable measures to ensure that policies to prevent SA were working, train their employees on identifying SA and inappropriate workplace behaviors, and protect their employees from SA and adhere to the applicable standard of care. Ooh. Yeah. Says defendants, Bad Boy Records, Sean John Clothing, Universal Music Group enabled or participated in the abuse of the plaintiff because the defendants failed to timely and properly educate, train, supervise, monitor their agents or employees regarding policies and procedures that should be followed when SA of a child is suspected or observed. Prior to Combs' SA plaintiff, Bad Boy Records, Sean John, Universal Music Group knew or should have known that Combs was not fit to be in a position of authority. Wow. The defendants, by and through their agents, servants, and or employees became aware or should have become aware of Combs' propensity to commit SA and of the risk of plaintiff's safety. At the very least, defendants knew or should have known that they did not have sufficient information about whether or not their leaders, managers, and people were safe to be in positions of power. This is interesting, and I cannot wait to see how UMG, Universal Music Group, responds. Says the defendants, Bad Boy Records, Bad Boy, Sean John, Universal Music Group, knew or should have known the Combs posed a risk of SA. I don't know how they would know that at the time, because did he have any other, had there been any other complaints filed against him or anything that had been proven? So I don't know how they would know that. It says the defendants, all the ones we just named that are named in this lawsuit, failed to properly serve Combs and protect plaintiff from a known danger, and thereby enabled Combs essay of the plaintiff. And they're just going on to allege that they failed negligently deemed that Combs was fit to be in a position of authority, and or that any previous suitability problems Combs had were fixed and cured, and or that Combs would not commit acts of SA, and or that Combs would not injure others. Moreover, the defendants, all of the ones listed in this complaint, enabled the intimate abuse of the plaintiff by actively maintaining and employing Combs in a position of power and authority, which Combs had control over people, including the plaintiff. As a direct and proximate result of the aforementioned mentioned crime of violence and gender-motivated violence, the plaintiff has sustained and will continue to sustain monetary damages, physical injury, pain and suffering, serious psychological and emotional distress, entitling her to an award of compensatory punitive damages, injunctive relief, declaratory relief, and attorney fees and costs, however the courts deem it appropriate. So she is demanding a trial by jury of all of the issues, and she is asking for a prayer for relief. And I think that is basically it. Who's her attorney here? Okay. This is not Tyrone Blackburn. I'm tired of seeing Tyrone's name on all these lawsuits. It's not Tyrone. So that's good to know. Someone named Michelle Kayola. Okay. And Jonathan Goldhirsch. All right, guys. Well, that is the complaint that was filed after Diddy did that fake apology in response to the video that was published on CNN regarding he and Cassie, and this is what he released that video after, and a day later we got this. All right, so again, guys, another Diddy lawsuit, another day, another Diddy lawsuit. You know, it's like comes with the territory now. Seven lawsuits is a lot. That is a lot. Okay, we're going to continue to follow this story because it is hot and people are talking. We're still talking about it. We'll be reporting a little bit more on it. And that's it. All right. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one and happy Wednesday. It's hump day.